What's up, guys? Welcome to Movie and Point's Flashback Reviews, where we take movies from our past, break them down, and tell you what we think about them. Hit the subscribe button if you like what you see. Also, hit the notification button for future videos. Also, comment below what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff. So, we're going to continue our quest or our journey to Dark Phoenix. We are hitting the main movies, not the offshoots like all the Wolverine movies. And we're going to go into what I consider one of the greatest and best superhero comic book movies of all time, and really, outside of the first movie, really legitimize the idea of what a superhero movie could do, and that was X2 X-Men United. And X2 X-Men United is written by Michael Daugherty, who is a well-known writer and director now, and he had written stuff like he's written and directed Trick or Treat, the upcoming Godzilla King of Monsters, which I'm really excited for. And he has taken the idea of what the X-Men were doing in the first movie and expanded upon it, made it bigger, made it badder, made it whole, made it more. And he's doing that with characters that were well established in the first movie, but are giving them more complex nature, more complex emotions. And the way they're doing that is proceeding upon what the characters were dealing with in the first movie. Wolverine's still trying to deal with his past. Jean Grey is still trying to deal with the mutant problem, as well as Xavier. And this time, Jean Grey is starting to feel the effects of what will happen in the Dark Phoenix saga, which is her ability to, destroy everything she comes across. She becomes like a almost anti-villain hero, whatever you want to call it. And Famke Janssen, who plays Jean Grey once again, is fantastic in this role because she's having to deal with so many emotions and so many things going on. She can hear people that are causing her problems with her, having headaches and so on and so forth. She's dealing with some kind of feeling that's coming to her. Just the fact that she's doing so much with the fact that she doesn't know what's going on with herself. The fact that anybody's trying to help her can't help her, and it's going to play out later on in the movie, and unfortunately for better or worse in the third movie. But this movie is going once again back to the whole mutant non-mutant problem, kind of like the muggles and wizarding world in Harry Potter, where we have a society that doesn't accept mutants, like doesn't accept the certain things going on today with the LGBTQ community. And it's very fascinating to see. This time we're getting a straight up insane villain played by Brian Cox. And Brian Cox plays William Stryker, who's very famous in the comics for dealing with Wolverine, being the creator of Wolverine. And so when that scenario is being played out, when Wolverine's starting to discover his past, you are learning also that William Stryker has a son who's also a mutant, but he has been experimented on, and he has the ability to kind of control people and kind of control people's minds to get them to do what they want. And so therefore William Stryker has also gained the ability to, I think through experimenting with his son, the ability to control mutants himself through a chemical that he injects into the back of their neck. And you see it when he goes to find out where Professor Xavier's mansion is, that he has been doing this to Magneto, Ian McKellen's character, as well as his sidekick, who is played by Kelly Hu, who plays Lady Deathstrike. And she is a person that has such a tragic storyline in this movie, because when she eventually fights Wolverine and gets injected with the adamantium, you're like, oh, that's a sweet battle. But when you think about it, she is under the influence of what William Stryker has done. So when she gets injected, she dies, and she dies for William Stryker's global cause to take down every mutant. And he's also going to use Patrick Stewart's Xavier for that. But this movie gets its momentum straight out of the gate from the first scene. And that first scene involves Alan Cumming. And Alan Cumming is a famous theater actor, and he was brought in to play Nightcrawler, or Kurt Wagner, whichever you want to consider him as. And Nightcrawler is a character who can basically dissipate through walls. He can go to places, but he has to kind of see where he's going. So he ends up being manipulated or controlled by, once again, by William Stryker, into basically almost assassinating the president. This movie starts out in the White House. Nightcrawler is part of a tour group. He basically goes off on his own, and then he does a insane takedown of all the Secret Service. He gets into the Oval Office, and he almost kills the president until a Secret Service officer kills or almost shoots him basically. Excuse me. And so there's that whole sequence is really awesome because it sets the tone, it sets the mood, it shows us a really cool mutant moment that is, for better or worse, a cool moment but a very disturbing moment. And it sets off this thing where the president gives William Stryker almost immediate power to do whatever he wants. Well, William Stryker has been planning for this, so he has created his own cerebro that he's learned that Xavier has created. And so he is going to basically go over to school, take over the mutants to capture them. And in the process, when Xavier goes to do his daily thing with Magneto, because he's trying to figure out what's going on, Xavier is captured and basically put under the influence of William Stryker's son. To basically, there's a makeshift cerebro that William Stryker has built, and Patrick Stewart's Xavier is going to use, or he's going to make Xavier use that to basically wipe out the entire mutant population, because he believes that his son has no cure, therefore nobody has a cure. And he is like, for instance, when you look at X-Men First Class later on, X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, when Stryker comes back as his younger self, you can see the inner workings of his hate for the mutant population by how he experiments on them. I mean, he's a despicable person, and Brian Cox, who's an amazing actor, does a fantastic job with that character. And like I said in the beginning, what I really find fascinating about this movie is willing to go to dark places. It's willing to take you to uncomfortable situations to kind of prove the scenario of why people are the way they are. Why is somebody like Stryker willing to basically decimate almost half a population to gain control of? I almost feel like he wants to become president, and it's so crazy to think about, and it's so interesting what Michael Daugherty's doing here, and what the director and what the with the whole cast and so on and so forth. They are just under a different guise of what superhero movies are trying to establish, and you see it later on in stuff like Civil War and so on and so forth. But I just think this movie just sets a perfect tone, sets an immediate just nature of the ability to do things that aren't necessarily easy, I guess you could say. And it just really shows in its storytelling. But going past all the storytelling, this movie has action out its wazoo, out its butt. It's insane how good the action has become from the first movie to the second movie, between the White House stuff, between the mansion takeover, between the last scene where Lady Deathstrike fights Wolverine. It's just crazy to see how they're so well shot together, so well put together. You have the tender moments where Nightcrawler and Jean Grey and Holly Berry Storm, they meet, and he explains that he's been manipulated and he's actually a good person. And then you get the stuff where once Magneto and once Rebecca Romaine, who plays Mystique, breaks Magneto out of jail with a really cool scene where she basically seduces the security guard, who's kind of like the jerk security guard. She injects him with metal, and he is killed because Magneto can sense the metal, and they break out. And then they go on a quest to basically rid the human population, which is what Ian McKellen's Magneto is doing in the first movie. But before we get all that, we get the situation where so once the mansion takeover happens, they end up in Wolverine and a few other classmates of Bobby Drake and Aunt Paquin's Rogue. They end up in Bobby Drake's house, who's played by Shawn Ashmore, and we learn that not only does Bobby Drake's family not know he's a mutant, but they don't really accept the fact that he's not a mutant, because they're like, "Can you try not being a mutant?" And Wolverine's like, and Bobby Drake's like, "No." And then it becomes a problem with the son, the brother of Bobby Drake, who basically calls the police. And there's a whole interesting scene where the police is there, and the kid who plays Pyro does his whole thing because he's an angry adolescent. And then the police officers shoot Wolverine because of his claws out, and they're like, remove your claws. He's like, I can't. And they shoot him, and the bullet falls out. And then they escape on the Quinjet, or no, they escape on the Blackbird, whatever you want to call it. and they almost are killed by two fighter jets, and then they're saved by, you know, Magneto and Rebecca Remain Mystique. And it's just, and then once that happens and there's that moment, they're at a campfire and they're all having their, you know, talk and so on and so forth. It's just a really interesting moment because everybody decides they're going to unite to take down this one entity, even though Magneto has his own thing behind him. But Magneto is also kind of manipulating Pyro into becoming part of his group, which he ends up being in X-Men The Last Stand. But once his stuff comes to a head, once, you know, everybody is saved, they end up in the White House, and Xavier and all the crew are there and the president's there, and they explain that they're not the problem, that people have to be one, have to be part of humanity. And that's why I just love this movie so much. It's not always the action, it's not always the storytelling, it's the willingness to just accomplish a goal and to set that goal and not to make it preachy. And this movie has its moments where it could get super preachy, but it doesn't. It's trying to make it a point about society, and it's just done so well. And, you know, like I said, the score is amazing in this movie. But let's get into the cast a little bit. I mean, Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine, and Wolverine, of course, is one of the many standouts of this movie. It kind of cements who Hugh Jackman is as Wolverine, because he finally gets to do a little bit of his berserker stuff within the mansion. You know, you have, like I said, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen back as Xavier and Magneto, and they're all still fantastic as ever, but they're never not fantastic. Even in X-Men The Last Stand, they're fantastic. Famke Janssen, like I said, comes back as Jean Grey, and she is still one of the standouts in this movie. Rebecca Remain comes back as Mystique. You know, Anna Paquin and Shawn Ashmore come back. We finally get Colossus, even though I think it was a little bit better in Deadpool. It's a different character actor, but same, you know what I mean. You know, Callie Hugh, who's like new in this movie, she has fun with her role, and it's kind of sad to see her way her character goes. And like I said, Brian Cox and Holly Berry and James Marsden, of course, play Cyclops and Storm. And thank God Holly Berry got rid of her accent, because it's a much better character. But once again, outside of what happens at the end once Jean Grey sacrifices herself to stop the dam that has exploded and is crashing water and everyone, there's not much else for Cyclops to do in this movie. He cries a little bit when she sacrifices herself, but so does Wolverine. And it's an interesting dynamic, and it causes Cyclops or Scott Summers to basically leave the mansion and then play out in the unfortunate X-Men The Last Stand. It feels like this movie really did justice for a genre, like I said, that was jump-started because of X-Men. But this, and then a year later was Spider-Man 2, I think it's Spider-Man 2, because this came out in 2003 and that was 2004. It's insane to see that movies like this are almost few and far between sometimes, because with the MCU doing its thing and DC doing kind of its thing, a movie like this just sets itself apart. And I get so frustrated with watching some of the comic book movies, because sometimes I feel like they're trying to get to the next movie, and that's not necessarily true here, even though they are going to the next movie. But it allows itself to breathe and contain its own story and just do it justice that no other comic book movie really does. And then, like I said, it isn't until Logan comes out in Dark Knight that we really get just a great contained story that it is the empire of this trilogy, but it is something that is willing to be its own thing and enjoy in the process. And like I said, you know, with Nightcrawler Homecoming, it just makes it that much more perfect. And I don't know why. I don't know if it was a contractual issue or what, but Alan Cummings should have come back as Nightcrawler in the next movie. And I'm so not looking forward to talking about X-Men The Last Stand. But at this point, we have X-Men and X2, and that's awesome. And unfortunately, we're going to have to go in the next movie, but you know what I mean. So, but that's going to be my take on X2, X-Men United. There's much more you could talk about, but it's a movie full of ideas that are well executed and well played out. So, but anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button at the top, comment below on what you think of this movie, what's your favorite part about this movie. If you don't like this movie, tell me in the comments below. I'm kind of interested to see why you don't like this movie, but most people, I think they like it as much as I do. So, but anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these 2 videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.